My sister caused the death of our entire family for the sake of a man, an orphan girl, once saved by my father, entered the palace to avenge us but was brutally killed by my sister. Given a second chance at life, I helped the frail orphan girl to her feet and said, "From now on, you are my own sister." She shook her head in panic. "I'll serve as your maid, miss. How could I be worthy?" I gazed sharply at my sister's envious eyes, tightening my grip on her hand. "You deserve it. From now on, I will protect you." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. My sister has always been weak due to a congenital condition. Our family treasures and pampers her like a precious gem. Whatever my sister likes, no matter how expensive, we will always find it for her. Even if she had fallen in love with my fiancé, I magnanimously gave him up to her. He was merely a man I had never met. How could he compare to my younger sister who had grown up with me? But I never expected that this man would later ascend to the throne as emperor. On the night my sister was taken into the palace by him, our entire family united in telling her that if she did not wish to enter the palace, they would protect her even at the risk of being exiled. But my sister said cheerfully that she was going to enter the palace. She wanted to become the most noble woman in the world. She got her wish and entered the palace as a consort, thanks to her father's official position, and her fiancé, Shui Lin, who by then had become the emperor, promised her, as long as the entire general's household is imprisoned, she will be granted the position of empress. Such an absurd proposal. Not only did she fail to see through this man and return to inform her family, but she actually nodded in agreement. Our entire family died tragically. My sister clutching her stomach and weeping bitterly. "I must secure a future for my child. You all said you would die for me. My child is your family too." Finally, it was Yun Yao, the orphan girl my father had once saved on the battlefield, who went to the mass grave to collect and bury our entire family, erected a memorial tablet for us, and sought revenge on our behalf. But she couldn't defeat my sister. She destroyed the face my sister took such pride in, but also met a tragic end at her hands. After being disfigured, my sister, in a fit of rage, had her torn apart by 5 horses. Yun Yao had always been timid. Ever since arriving at the general's manor, she had been too cowardly to face others. Yet who could have imagined that such a timid and weak person would one day be able to lift a heavy sword, fearless of life and death? When I opened my eyes again, I found that I had been reborn. I had returned to the day my father brought Yun Yao into the manor. She was slapped to the ground by her sister, lying there trembling, not daring to move. Her sister, hands on her hips, cried out to their father, "What orphan girl? She's clearly your illegitimate child from outside." The father was panting with anger, but he couldn't bring himself to scold his usually spoiled younger daughter, so he could only say to me, "Shuyu, take Yun Yao down and arrange a place for her to stay." Both her parents died in battle at Pingnan Pass. She's the only one left in her family. From now on, she is the 4th young lady of the general's manor. I helped Yun Yao's frail body up, gripping her bony fingers tightly, my gaze cold and stern as I stared at my dear sister Shu Yang. "Father, since Yun Yao's parents both died in battle, she is the descendant of meritorious officials. How dare Shu Yang hit her? Since when does our Shu family have a daughter who can't tell right from wrong?" Shu Yang stepped back in shock, hiding behind her mother. "Mother, I'm scared." Father was awkwardly silent, while mother forced a smile and tried to persuade me. "All right, she is your own sister." Shu Yang, nestled in mother's arms, stuck her tongue out at me triumphantly and shot a defiant glare at Yun Yao, furious. I let out a cold laugh, took 2 steps forward, and viciously yanked her out of mother's arms. I swung my hand and slapped her hard across the face. "This slap is for your unreasonable behavior, bullying others with your influence, and acting spoiled with favoritism," she screamed in a broken voice, her face covered in tears, her lips split by my blow, blood dripping downward. Father and mother were both shocked and furious, but I spoke before they could. "The great victory at Pingnan Pass has the emperor about to reward the meritorious officials. If father brings home the orphaned daughter of a family who died for the country to adopt, it will soon reach the emperor's ears. If the emperor learns that you, as the commander, did not treat the descendants of fallen soldiers with kindness, it will not only enrage his majesty but also sow discord among your own subordinates." Father sank back into his chair, deep in thought. I looked at my mother. Sister has a weak constitution, and her reputation for being difficult to bear children is already widely known. If she adds the charge of assaulting the descendant of a meritorious official, "Mother, you don't need me to say more. You should understand, in the future, not only will she be unmarriageable, But even my elder sister and I won't be able to marry either. Mother also sat back in her chair with a serious expression. Xu Yang scrambled up from the ground, crying out with a mouthful of bloody foam, "What kind of descendant of a meritorious official? Her father was at most a foot soldier. Not even worthy of an official title, second sister. How could you hit me for this lowly wretch?" Father, who cherished his soldiers dearly, was enraged upon hearing this and looked at her with disappointment. How could you say such a thing?" Mother also shook her head in disappointment. Yun Yao timidly wept softly beside me, saying, "It's my fault, second miss. I'm just a commoner. Please don't take your anger out on third miss because of me." She knelt down and kowtowed to Xu Yang in apology, her forehead skin broken and bleeding profusely. My heart clenched. Xu Yang was still relentlessly hurling insults. "You're nothing but a lowly commoner. Letting you step into our general's manor has already dirtied this ground." I laughed in extreme anger, grabbing Xu Yang's hair and slapping her across the mouth. "Shut your mouth." Blood seeped into my palm as I threw her into the maid's hands. "Lock her up in the ancestral hall. Let her reflect on her actions." After saying this, I steadied Yun Yao's trembling body and spoke word by word. "From now on, you are my own sister." She shook her head in panic, tears streaming down like rain. I'll serve as the young lady's maid. How could I be worthy?" I glared sharply at Xu Yang's envious and resentful gaze, tightening my grip on her hand. "You deserve it. From now on, I will protect you." Xu Yang burst into loud sobs, continuously hurling insults at me and Yun Yao. I calmly said to my parents, "Yun Yao has already come of age, yet no one has come to propose marriage. What do you think is the reason?" "Father and mother." Father covered his head and sighed sorrowfully. "We can support her for a lifetime." The mother, who had always doted on Xu Yang the most, for the first time did not agree with the father. I softly asked my father, "Does father only have Xu Yang as a daughter? Then won't my brother marry? Won't my elder sister and I get married?" "Father, spoiling a child is like killing them. You don't have just one child. If you disregard Xu Yan's reputation, you're making all three of us suffer the consequences of her willfulness." Father fell silent, his gaze shifting uneasily toward mother. Mother said gravely, "Yua is right. In the past, we've been too indulgent with Yanga, allowing her to completely lose the demeanor of a well-bred young lady. We must not continue like this." Meanwhile, in the ancestral hall, Xu Yang was cursing heaven and earth at the matron guarding her. She thought that, given her family's doting on her, it was just for show and they would soon let her out. But she was overthinking it. The days of having everything her way, as in the past, would never come again. Father originally just told me to casually arrange Yun Yao in a courtyard. I recall her stubborn and resolute words as she faced death in her previous life. The Xu family saved me, an orphan girl, from dire straits, and took me in without regard for my lowly status. I have no way to repay them, except with my life. But in truth, we treated her only ordinarily, merely giving her a place to live and food to eat. Such a simple act of kindness was actually worth her risking life and limb. And Xu Yang is our own sister, cherished in our hands and hearts for 18 years. But how did she treat us? In this world, closeness or distance has little to do with blood ties. Some treat family like enemies, while some friends are closer than kin. I arranged Yun Yao to stay in the courtyard of us sisters, and my elder sister did not blame me for what I did today. He could only smile bitterly and say, "It should have been this way long ago." Over the years, the one who suffered the most was our eldest sister. Her perfectly good marriage engagement was called off because of Xu Yang's domineering behavior. In daily life, whatever she liked, Xu Yang would act spoiled and unreasonable to snatch it away. Our parents would say she was young and frail, so whether we were willing or not, we had to give in to her. The eldest sister is very fond of Yun Yao. She learned from the true teachings of Master Yun Huizi, and her boneless painting style is unparalleled in the capital, often earning praise at home as well. Only Xu Yang always makes sarcastic remarks and even sneaks around to cause trouble, scribbling on the carefully painted artworks. Scolding Xu Yang just a little makes her burst into tears. And she won't be comforted until the eldest sister's painting is torn up. Since Yun Yao arrived, my sister has been teaching her how to paint. Yun Yao has a natural talent and quickly got the hang of it. No matter what my sister painted, Yun Yao would clap her hands like a child, earnestly and happily trying her best to praise my sister with all the words she could think of. My sister, who had been feeling depressed because of the broken engagement, has been much better these days. And her laughter can often be heard in the courtyard. Yun Yao was frail, yet she never once complained of pain while following me in horseback riding and martial arts practice. Even when she fell off the horse, she would get right back up. Fearing I might worry, she would even jump up and down, laughing to assure me she was fine. My elder brother taught her to read and write. She often stays up late at night, secretly practicing calligraphy. The next day, her eyes are swollen as she yawns. When we ask her, she just smiles shyly. Xu Yang made a fuss in the ancestral hall for a few days, and when she finally realized we were determined to punish her, she burst into tears of anger. Half a month later, when she was released, it happened to be the day we recorded Yun Yarrow into the ancestral hall and held a banquet. The emperor greatly praised my father for adopting the daughters of soldiers who had died in battle. On the day of the victory celebration, father's soldiers pooled their money to give him a gift, a group of battle-hardened veterans, who usually shed blood but not tears, red-eyed, told father that they had followed a great commander and were willing to live and die for him. Just because father treated the children of soldiers of the same status as his own daughters, father felt immensely grateful for his decision that day to punish Xu Yang by confining her in the ancestral hall. Even eldest sister had a family of equal social standing come to propose marriage, and mother was so overjoyed she couldn't hold back her tears. So when Xu Yang came out and saw us trying to register Yun Yarrow into the family genealogy, causing a huge scene, for the first time, father and mother stood by our side and scolded her. She broke down and screamed at the top of her lungs, "I am your daughter, I am your sister, she is just a wretch, how dare she steal the affection you had for me?" I watched it all coldly. This was only the beginning. I want Yun Yarrow to rightfully become the fourth young lady of the Shu family, and I want her to be showered with endless love and adoration from now on, just like in the previous life. The first thing Xuelin did after returning from the border was to come to my home to discuss marriage matters with my parents. He was the emperor's least favored prince, and he needed the marriage alliance with the general's mansion more than anyone else. In the previous life, the general's mansion gave him support, but he betrayed them after achieving his goals. The first thing he did after ascending the throne was to eliminate the general's mansion. Better to have Xu Yang, a member of the Shu family, personally give false testimony in court, claiming that her father committed treason by colluding with the enemy. He deceived Xu Yang, telling her that the child in her womb was her only true family, and that the existence of the general's mansion would become the greatest threat to her son's ascension to the throne. The general's mansion was her maternal family, but a woman follows her husband after marriage. She was no longer a member of the Shu family. The royal family was her home from then on. After her death, she would be buried in the imperial mausoleum, not laid to rest with the Shu family. Such nonsense. Xu Yang actually regarded it as an infallible truth and actually obeyed it. Just like in her previous life, Xu Yang fell in love with Xuelin at first sight and cried and made a scene, insisting on marrying him. After learning of Xu Yang's affection, Xuelin neither took the initiative nor rejected her, and even acted ambiguously in their interactions. After all, the rumors of the general's mansion doting on the youngest daughter had been circulating in the capital for over a decade. Compared to me, the lukewarm second young lady, marrying Xu Yang would naturally make it easier to control father. In her desperation to marry Xuelin, Xu Yang even resorted to faking suicide. One moment she threatens to drown herself in the lake, the next to hang herself, and then to crash into a wall. In the end, her parents still cared for her and had no choice but to come to me. This time, not only Yun Yao, but also my eldest sister and brother stood by my side. My eldest sister had always been gentle and obedient, taught by our mother all these years to set an example as the eldest, but this time, for the first time, she asked our mother, "Father, mother, you always tell us to yield to Xu Yang, but are we any less deserving of life? We give way in food and clothing. And now even second sister's marriage must be sacrificed. Mother, what has second sister done wrong? Is it because she is sensible? Is it because we are sensible? Must we endure such injustice?" Elder brother also said in a deep voice, "Father, mother, your actions only make us feel disheartened and fill us with despair for this family." Just as my parents were wavering, a maid came stumbling in from outside, trembling as she whispered in my ear, "It's terrible, it's terrible." I suppressed the joy in my heart. The fish had taken the bait, and it was time to slowly reel it in. All eyes were on me, and mother asked me what had happened. I paled, feigning weakness, and staggered as I covered my face and wept. "Xu Yang, she actually had an affair with Xuelin, and it happened right in our own home." Father sprang to his feet. Wasn't he admiring the lotus in the front courtyard? All the maids and servants in the inner courtyard had been driven to the front, leaving the open space of the general's residence as silent as a tomb. Father and mother had aged many years in an instant, lingering outside the door, not daring to enter, their pleading, fragile gazes falling upon me. I pulled my elder sister aside. "Father, mother, my sister and I are not yet married. Matters like this should not fall to us. But family shame must not be spread abroad. We can no longer afford to care about such things. My sister and I pushed the door open and entered. A maid was keeping watch nearby and, upon seeing us, panicked. Just as she was about to cry out to alert them, I covered her mouth and tossed her to the matron behind me, drag her away and beat her to death with clubs. All these years, Xu Yang had been acting spoiled and foolish in the general's residence. The whole family indulged her, only fueling her arrogance even more. Even the maids around her became arrogant and showed no respect for their superiors. Now that I have returned, I naturally won't let go of such a perfect opportunity to make an example of someone. The death of this maid will make those restless servants in the general's mansion who have been currying favor with Xu Yang behave properly from now on. Seeing that my elder sister and I had arrived, Xu Yang showed no sign of panic at all. Instead, she snuggled closer to the unconscious Xuelin and said, "Second sister, she is my person now." She showed that detestable face again. I splashed a cup of water to wake Xuelin, who panicked and grabbed his clothes. "Second miss, such clumsy acting." After all, this was a family matter of the general's residence, so Xuelin was asked to leave. I told Xu Yang, "Father and mother are right outside." She showed no fear. "The rice is already cooked, what's done is done. Mother and father won't blame me." "Second sister, I know you hate me, and I hate you too. From now on, brother Xue is my husband. If you dare lay a finger on him again, I'll kill you." Elder sister trembled with rage. She had always been gentle, but this was the first time she had flown into such a fury. Xu Yang was dragged off the bed, and elder sister ruthlessly slapped her twice across the face. Someone, come and lock her in the firewood shed. When it's late at night, have her dragged off to the estate." Xu Yang, completely exposed, covered her face in disbelief that her sister, who had always doted on and indulged her, would actually lay hands on her. She viciously shook off her sister's hand and began to tussle with her. "You lowly wretch, how dare you hit me? I am the future princess consort. What are you, an old maid who can't even get married, just leeching off our parents at home? Do you think anyone actually respects you? Who in the capital isn't laughing at you? Serves you right that no one even wants to propose marriage to you." My sister's eyes reddened instantly. I restrained Xu Yang after all. She was still afraid I might strike. Over the years, I've been away on campaigns with father, rarely returning home, and even when I did, I spent my time drilling with weapons. Xu Yang knew my skills well. If I were to lay a hand on her, she'd likely be bedridden for a month, and she was still waiting to see Xuelin. I picked up the clothes from the floor and threw them at her face. "What are you standing there for? Take the third young lady to change her clothes." The room fell silent. My sister slumped on the embroidered stool, weeping silently. Every word from Xu Yang felt like a thorn piercing the deepest, most painful part of her heart. My sister and the young master of the Zhu family were childhood sweethearts, betrothed since they were young. Because of Xu Yang, the Zhu family's madam grew to despise our family's daughter and forced the young master to break off the engagement. The young master was unwilling but could not defy his parents. Pressured into a corner, he remains in the military camp to this day, refusing to return. I helped my sister up. "Sister, as long as Xu Yang remains part of the Xu family, our family will never know peace. Not just you, but also the official careers of our parents and brothers, the future and lives of our entire family. If this tumor isn't removed, the wound will never heal." The gentleness in my sister's eyes was replaced by hatred. "Then make her leave." Xu Yang was confined to her room. In the end, my father and mother were too ashamed to speak to me, and my engagement with Xuelin was called off. I told my father and mother that I had chosen a husband for Xu Yang from among the soldiers under my command. After they are married, he will take Xu Yang to live at the border, far from the capital. Her scandalous affair with Xuelin will also be quietly dropped. My parents have promised me that my sister will be the one to tell Xu Yang, who is confined to her room. My brother, on the other hand, is responsible for informing Xuelin. Seeing that our family was determined to send Xu Yang away for marriage, Xuelin turned his attention to me. At the same time, I began to frequently attend various banquets in the capital and grew closer to the second prince. Xuelin had his servant deliver several letters to me, all of which I rejected without mercy. The second prince wiped his longbow and chuckled. "I find myself increasingly unable to understand the second young lady. In his previous life, after Xuelin ascended the throne, he slaughtered the old ministers to consolidate his power, sparking widespread discontent. Not long after, the second prince, Xue Heng, led an army with the defected old ministers to purge the court of evil influences. He beheaded Xue Lin right in front of the palace hall and, stepping over his fallen head, firmly secured the imperial throne. I drew my bow and released the arrow. 2 large geese fell into the forest. He laughed and clapped. Second miss. What excellent archery. I retrieved my bow and arrows. Looking into his captivating peach blossom eyes, I want the general's manor to stand firm and unshaken. I want my family to be safe and sound. His smile deepened, then strive to become the empress. But you must choose the right prince to bet on. I curled my lips. The Shu family will not produce an empress, only loyal ministers. The Shu family's pledge of allegiance is Xue Lin's head on a platter. The smile in his eyes vanished, revealing their original dark intensity. From what I know, he and your third sister are already intimate as husband and wife. My heart skipped a beat. This idle prince, known throughout the capital for his carefree demeanor, was indeed putting on an act. I made my stance clear. The third young lady of the general's manor is about to be replaced. Xueheng showed a bit of interest. Is that so? Then I'll await the good news from the second young lady. As I expected, after learning of our plan to marry her off to a soldier and send her to the borderlands, Xu Yang wrote to Xue Lin begging him to elope with her. After reading the letter she wrote to Xue Lin word for word, I added 2 sentences in her handwriting. As long as we elope and have a child, once my father and mother find out, they will have no choice but to agree to our marriage. By then, the rice will already be cooked. My father will surely agree to help you ascend the throne. The next day, I gave the letter to my father and had someone disguised as Xu Yan's maid deliver a message to Xue Lin, orally relaying the contents of the letter to him. He can no longer gain anything by focusing his efforts on me. Xu Yang is his only path forward, even if it means taking a risky move. He has no choice but to try. After all, he has no maternal clan to rely on. After reading it, my father flew into a rage and nearly fainted from anger. My mother remained silent for a long time before finally shedding tears and saying, "All the children in our family are steady and reliable, but she has been spoiled and manipulative since childhood. When she gets her way, she charms the whole family into happiness. The slightest dissatisfaction, and she does every outrageous thing imaginable. This time, we absolutely must not indulge her any longer." I looked at my parents' disappointed expressions towards Xu Yang. But this was not enough. What I needed to do was to make them completely lose hope in this little daughter they had always favored. The maid taking care of Xu Yang came to report at the exact time I had instructed. Xu Yang had knocked her unconscious, put on her clothes, and run away. My father's vision went dark, and he immediately sent someone to the third prince's residence, only to be told that the third prince had already left the capital to travel. Mother was so angry she spat blood, utterly despairing. She's trying to drag the entire general's manor to its doom. I knelt down in tears. There's only one way now to ensure the safety of the general's manor. Father and mother spoke in unison. What way? I sobbed. Announce to the world that Xu Yang is not a child of the general's manor. She was born to mother at the border. Just say she was switched with Yun Yarrow at birth. Xu Yang was originally the midwife's daughter, while Yun Yarrow is the true biological daughter of our general's manor. Father and mother fell into silence. I did not rush to pressure them, but instead asked them to think it over carefully. In reality, I did not give them time to consider. After I walked out, my elder sister received my message and took poison to end her life. In the past, only Xu Yang would do such things, because she could make a scene openly, so the whole family's attention was on her. My sister is kind and gentle, unwilling to worry our parents, enduring everything, but what good did it bring her? It shows that the child who cries always gets more love than the sensible one. When my sister was saved by the imperial physician, she was barely breathing, to force Xu Yang, that malignant tumor, out of the general's mansion. My sister had made a ruthless decision to harm herself. She used all her strength to shake off her mother's hand that held her tear-streaked face, and said with a bitter smile, "If mother only cares about Xu Yang, then whether I live or die hardly matters. Rather than being shamed to death when the truth comes out, it's better for me to die cleanly now." Before the matter here could be resolved, a servant's anxious voice came from outside. "Young master, the young master has withdrawn from the academy." Her brother had studied diligently all these years, achieving the rank of provincial scholar at a young age. With one more push, he could have secured a firm position at court. He was the successor his father had painstakingly nurtured, and no one could have been more heartbroken and furious than his father upon learning that his elder brother had dropped out of school. As soon as his elder brother stepped into the courtyard, his father slapped him across the face. "Ungrateful son." His elder brother wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth indifferently and, for the first time, retorted to his father, "If I'm an ungrateful son, Then what is Xu Yang, and what are you? Furious, he dragged his father into his sister's room and pointed to the scars on her fingers for his father to see. Father, look at my sister's hands, all these years of embroidery and needlework. Things a young lady from a good family should learn. When has my sister ever been anything but diligent? He picked up my sister's paintings. Open your eyes and look at these. These are what your daughter poured her heart into painting. How can she not deserve the title of the top talented lady in the capital? He dragged me in front of Mother. Mother, this is your own daughter. How many times have you seen her? How many clothes have you made for her? What have you ever given her? For the sake of our Xu family, she was taken to the borderlands by father before she was even weaned. All these years on the battlefield, fighting with swords and blades, has second sister ever not risked her life? She did it for the honor and disgrace of our entire family. But what have you given her? Even her only marriage prospect was snatched away and given to that scoundrel Xu Yang. And me, my brother's eyes reddened, his voice choked with emotion. Have I ever dared to rest for a single day, to earn scholarly honors, to ensure our family stands firm in the court? No matter how cold the winter, I never rested. No matter how hot the summer, I never put down my brush. But now, because of your favoritism and indulgence, it's all over. He laughed maniacally. Since that's the case, rather than being impeached and dismissed by the censorate later, why not have our whole family buried with your precious daughter right now? I silently praised my brother and sister for their excellent acting skills. The next moment, they suddenly jolted awake. This was the grievance they had endured for years. These were the words from the depths of their hearts. The tears of the elder brother and sister were not an act, this was the blood and tears they had suppressed for so many years. Father finally made up his mind, and this time, Mother showed no trace of softness, instead putting all her effort into arranging this family recognition banquet. The news that Yun Yarrow and Xu Yang had been switched at birth, and that Yun Yarrow was the biological daughter of the general's manor, spread throughout the capital, causing an uproar. During the banquet, someone asked where Xu Yang was now. Before I could speak, Mother had already responded with a smile. Naturally, she is where she belongs. She has gone to her birth mother. Mother finally came to her senses. Only when spoken from Mother's mouth could this statement more effectively preserve the reputation of the entire general's manor. The subtext was, I have already sent her away. As for whom she is with now, whether she eloped with someone or married someone, it no longer has anything to do with our general's manor. Young Master Ju's mother came to our family's banquet for the first time. No wonder she's so arrogant and doesn't know her place. Anyone who didn't know better would think all the daughters of the general's household have such poor character. Turns out, after all this time, she's the imposter. Since Xu Yang spoke disrespectfully to Lady Ju and even struck Lady Ju's daughter, the Ju family has been considering calling off the engagement. My sister was deeply affected by this incident and has since shut herself away, refusing to go out. Lately, I've often been taking my sister out to meet guests. And we've run into Lady Ju multiple times at these gatherings. After several encounters, Madame Ju came to understand from observing her sister's conduct and how she treated guests that she was not the kind of person Xu Yang was. The barrier in her heart gradually faded, and just yesterday, she even sent an invitation, asking her sister to visit the mansion to enjoy the flowers. Her sister was so overjoyed that she shed tears. She and young Master Ju had grown up together and were deeply in love. To avoid breaking off the engagement, young Master Ju was still drifting in the military camp, and her sister had not considered any other marriage proposals. Mother held the Ju family's invitation yesterday, looking at it over and over, her fingers trembling. It's my fault, all my fault. After a sleepless night, Mother had made up her mind completely today. I then had the person blocking Xu Yang at the door let her in. Her venomous gaze swept around the room before finally settling on Yun Yarrow. She rushed frantically to Yun Yarrow's side, tearing at her clothes. Take it off. This is my dress. How dare a lowly servant like you wear it? I am the third young lady of the general's manor. Xuelin also entered from outside. He had come to back Xu Yang up. Though their affair wasn't widely known, it wasn't without rumors either. If Xu Yang were the third daughter of the general's mansion, everything would be manageable. But if she were truly the daughter of a midwife, not only would his plans fall through, but he would also become the laughingstock of the entire capital. How could a prince of the nation tolerate being tainted by such a disgraceful affair as eloping with a midwife's daughter? Therefore, whether Xu Yang was the third daughter of the general's mansion or not, Xuelin had to make her one today. I restrained the frantic Xu Yang, while my elder brother blocked Xuelin with disgust. What business does the third prince have here? Xuelin smiled and said, I have already informed His Majesty of my intention to marry the third miss. Today, upon seeing someone impersonate the third miss and take her place, I came to speak out on her behalf. He is deliberately using the Emperor's name to pressure us." My elder brother's expression darkened. I shot a glance at my sister, and she took Xu Yang from my hands and helped her up. I stepped forward and said with a smile, "Since it is only an intention, it has not yet been finalized. Regardless of whether Xu Yang is the third miss of our general's manor, she is first and foremost a respectable young lady. If your highness speaks like this, and His Majesty ultimately does not grant Xu Yang to you in marriage, would that not force Xu Yang to her death? Your words today have already tarnished Xu Yan's reputation." The third prince said urgently. "That must be settled, of course." I smiled and said to the guests around, "All of you are well-known figures in the capital. Please bear witness for Xu Yang, whether she is the third daughter of the general's household or not. The third prince is determined to marry her." I never expected the third prince to be so deeply devoted. The third prince, enraged and anxious, exclaimed, "Xu Yang is indeed the third daughter of the general's household." The sound of the second prince's arrival came from outside, and I pulled my elder brother to step back. Since I have chosen the second prince as an ally, it is only natural that he should step forward when needed at critical moments. Not making use of connections when you have them, that would be foolish. The second prince approached with a smile. "Third brother is truly devoted. I have already sent someone to inform father of your intention to marry Xu Yang. I expect the imperial decree for the marriage will be issued soon." Xue Lin's face turned deathly pale. Xue Heng didn't give him a chance to speak, stepping closer to Yun Yao. "So this must be the third young miss newly recognized by the general's manor. Truly, she resembles the second young miss in appearance, and her temperament is just as dignified as the eldest young misses." He smiled as he looked at the father. "The old general has finally found his beloved daughter. You must cherish her dearly." With just a few words, Xue Heng firmly established Yun Yao's identity as the third young miss of the general's manor. From then on, no one would dare to question it. Questioning Yun Yao's identity is tantamount to questioning the second prince's judgment. Our entire family expressed our gratitude to Xue Heng together, with my elder sister firmly covering Xu Yang's mouth to prevent her from uttering a single word. Not long after, the imperial decree of the arranged marriage arrived. Unlike Xue Lin, who had no maternal family to rely on, Xue Heng's mother was the empress of the central palace. With her stirring up trouble within the palace, things became much simpler. Xue Lin reluctantly knelt to receive the decree, and Xu Yang once again became arrogant. As she left, she glared viciously at our family. "Just you wait. One day I will kill every last one of you." Her gaze then fell on Yun Yao and me. "From now on, I will be the third prince's consort. When you see me, you must bow and kowtow properly." I ignored him and instead closed the door tightly. It wouldn't be long before she would come crying and begging at the general's mansion again. Not even half a month had passed when Xu Yang, with red eyes, stopped my mother's and my carriage. "Mother, are you really not going to care about me anymore?" Over the past half-month, Xu Yang, relying on her imminent status as the third prince's consort, was nothing if not audacious. First, she went to the Zhu family to try and ruin her elder sister's hard-won, stable marriage. Failing to get her way, she even sent a message to the young master of the Zhu family, who was returning to the capital, claiming that her elder sister was having an affair. Fortunately, not only did the young master of the Zhu family not believe it, but he also submitted a memorial to impeach the third prince. Young Master Zhu has been training in the military camp these past few years and has already earned an official rank. The third prince had been wanting to win him over to his side, but now all his efforts have been thwarted by Xu Yang. On the second day after young Master Zhu returned to the capital, he went to the second prince's residence. This made his stance perfectly clear. The third prince was so angry he wanted to kill someone. I lifted the sedan curtain for my mother. My mother sneered, "I am not your mother." Xu Yang pushed the maid aside and got into the sedan, kneeling at my mother's feet, foolishly hoping to soften her heart with the same old tricks. But she didn't know that the things she had done to her sister had completely broken her mother's heart. "Mother, Xuelang and I are about to get married, but I have no dowry. I am also your own daughter, and I should leave from the general's residence too." Her mother mercilessly kicked her in the shoulder. "Get out." Xu Yang was dragged away. She would never know that before she came, I had already poisoned mother's mind. Mother's health is getting worse and worse. After all she's been through, Xu Yang should have grown up by now. If we meet again, she might even show some concern for mother's health. But Xu Yang was useless. Every word she spoke when she saw her mother was for her own benefit. She didn't even say a single word about her mother's health. How could a mother who had loved her for over 10 years not feel heartbroken? How could she not be disappointed? After Xu Yang was dragged away, she cursed at her mother. Is there a mother like you in this world? You're trying to kill me, trying to kill me. No matter how much she made a scene, she couldn't change any of this. She became the only bride in the capital who left her aunt's home to marry without a dowry from her husband's family. In the 6 months since Xuelin and Xu Yang married, not a single person from the general's mansion visited the third prince's residence, and they even shut their doors when faced with their visits. I grew closer and closer to the second prince, and rumors had already begun to spread in the capital that the two of us were to be engaged. Xuelin could no longer sit still. He realized he had completely lost the support of the general's manor, and Xu Yang had already been abandoned by the general's manor as well. Meanwhile, the second prince not only had his maternal family to rely on, but was also about to gain the general's manor as his father-in-law to boost his standing. Even if he wanted to rebel like in his previous life, where would he get the military forces? With no way out, Xuelin resorted to a desperate move. Since he couldn't gain the support of the general's mansion, even if it meant destroying me, he wouldn't allow the second prince to have such an in-law family. He had Xu Yang arrange a meeting with me, and even though I knew it was a trap, I gladly accepted the invitation. Xueheng raised an eyebrow and asked me, "Aren't you afraid? My third brother's methods are notoriously dirty." I smiled and replied, "Of course I am. Would your highness be willing to help me?" He chuckled lightly. Crushing the fish food in his hand and scattering it into the pond, "I will certainly do my utmost to help." That night, I drank that cup of wine in front of Xu Yang, and not long after, Xuelin arrived, reeking of alcohol. I had already been taken away by Xueheng when Xu Yang left, and the one on the bed, dressed up to keep the appointment, was noble consort Zhong, with whom Xuelin was having a secret affair in the palace. Xueheng forged Xuelin's handwriting and wrote a letter to Lady Zhong. It was clearly not their first affair. Lady Zhong, familiar with the routine, quickly disguised herself as her own palace maid and left the palace. Xuelin was awakened by the torchlight in the hands of the guards. Xueheng leaned against a pillar with arms crossed, glanced downward, and clicked his tongue. A red mandarin duck bellyband. Third brother certainly has taste. He curled his lips into an ambiguous smile, raised his hand, and commanded, "Take him into custody, bring him to the palace, and hand him over to His Majesty." His Majesty was furious, fainted from anger, and consort Zhong was executed on the spot, while Xuelin was imprisoned in the imperial prison. However, this single charge alone was not enough to sentence Xuelin to death. Moreover, for the sake of His Majesty's own dignity, it would be impossible to publicly announce Xuelin's treacherous crimes. At this point, to firmly pin the blame on Xuelin, one must have a justified cause. Xueheng is a seasoned veteran in the official circles. There's no need for me to say much, as he is well aware of the situation himself. On the second day in the imperial court, young Master Zhu exposed on the spot that Xuelin had once attempted to win him over, promising that if he assisted in the rebellion, he would be enfeoffed as a marquis once Xuelin ascended the throne. His Majesty was furious and sentenced him to confiscation of property and exile, but during the raid, evidence of his collusion with the enemy was discovered. Xu Yang, as the third prince's consort, could not escape punishment either. The marketplace where Xuelin and Xu Yang were beheaded was the same place where our family had been executed in my previous life. My sister told me to close my eyes, and my brother said it wouldn't hurt. Our parents are filled with regret, yet we are unwilling to forgive them, even to this day, with Xu Yang on her deathbed. We still cannot bridge the gap between us and our father and mother. I looked at Yu Niao, who was holding our three siblings' cloaks beside me, and couldn't help but reach out to touch her face, but she thought I wanted the cloak. Second sister, I added an extra layer of velvet embroidery. It's really warm when you wear it, not cold at all. I held back my tears and patted her head. Yes, it's not cold. After Xueheng ascended the throne as emperor, everyone thought I would enter the palace to become the empress. Even Xueheng believed so. As he sent me the phoenix seal and the decree of appointment, I returned them all. He raised his eyebrows in slight surprise. "You're unwilling?" "Yes, I am unwilling." I met his gaze, the tenderness in his eyes forcibly restrained as he smiled mockingly. "You look down on me." I shook my head. The Shu family cannot become imperial in-laws once a woman from the Shu family enters the palace. No matter how hard the family tries, they cannot escape the fate of becoming imperial in-laws. Since ancient times, only loyal ministers have met a good end, while imperial in-laws have never enjoyed lasting prosperity. The slightest misstep could lead to the death penalty or the extermination of the entire clan. Xueheng tapped the phoenix seal with her slender fingers. Think it over again. There's no rush, I said calmly. I will soon return to the frontier to guard the border. Rather than having me compete for favor among the ladies in the palace, wouldn't your majesty agree that it's better for me to defend the territory violated by enemy nations on your behalf? After a long silence, Xueheng smiled and said, Indeed, the second lady has lofty ambitions. I was being presumptuous. Then I wish the second lady smooth sailing and success in all endeavors. Your subject thanks your majesty for your great kindness. The end. The second story. In my previous life, my elder sister Liu Ruyan pretended to decline the marriage proposal from the Prince of Zhenbei, only to turn around and marry into the prince's mansion in grand style, enjoying all the glory and favor. As for me, she schemed to have me married off to the western regions, where I ultimately met a tragic death in a foreign land, reborn and returned. I found myself back on the day the imperial decree was announced, when my elder sister once again put on an affected act. Tearfully claiming she only sees the prince as an elder brother, I pushed her aside and knelt before the king. If my sister refuses, I am willing to marry. In this life, I will make her watch with her own eyes. The marriage she pretended to refuse becomes my ladder to the clouds. Her meticulously sought glory and wealth all fell into my hands, when she discovered that the prince not only cherished me like a pearl but even personally drew my eyebrows and applied my makeup. She finally tore off that hypocritical mask, but this is not enough. I want her reputation ruined. I want her in unbearable pain. I want her to taste every bit of the suffering I endured in my past life. After all, isn't returning from rebirth all about settling old scores? The day I breathed my last was the birthday of my legitimate sister, Liu Ruyan. In the remote western frontier where yellow sand filled the sky, I lay in a pool of blood, the greeting she sent still echoing in my ears. Since the princess has willingly degraded herself by consorting with barbarians, don't blame your sister for upholding justice at the expense of kinship. The excruciating pain tore at my heart, yet I lacked even the strength to struggle. Zhuhua, what are you daydreaming about? My mother's voice jolted me awake from the nightmare. I looked up and saw all eyes in the hall fixed on my tearful, delicate half-sister standing before me. Father, I have always regarded the prince as an elder brother. This marriage, I cannot comply. Liu Ruyan clutched her silk handkerchief, her eyes reddening at the corners, presenting the very image of a chaste and virtuous woman. The eunuch sent to deliver the imperial decree had already darkened his expression. I sneered inwardly. I remembered this scene vividly from my past life. Liu Ruyan feigned refusal on the surface, yet secretly worked through the night embroidering her wedding gown, after marrying into the royal mansion. She enjoyed the honor of being a princess while secretly having an affair with her childhood sweetheart. Later, when the affair was exposed, she actually schemed to pin the blame on me, ultimately causing my tragic death in the western regions. If my sister refuses, I am willing to marry. My clear and melodious voice was like jade beads falling onto a plate, stunning everyone in the hall. The teacup in the king's hand clattered onto the table. The queen consort gasped in shock. And even Liu Ruyan forgot to continue her affected sobbing. Zhuhua, you, Prince Jing, my father, looked at me, his usually low-key second daughter, with astonishment and doubt. I stepped forward slowly and knelt steadily under the stunned gaze of my elder sister. Your Majesty is wise. The Prince of the North has achieved great military merits. If we can form this favorable alliance, it would be a blessing for our royal house, since my sister has no such intention. I am willing to share your Majesty's concerns. I deliberately emphasized the words no such intention, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw Liu Ruyan's nails digging into her palm. The king hesitated and looked at the queen. I know he is weighing the options. Prince of the Northern Garrison, Mo Beichen, is a trusted minister of the emperor, and this marriage is something many would eagerly seek, if it weren't for the long-standing friendship between the Jing Palace and him. How could the Liu family have this opportunity? The consort quickly interjected. Your Highness. Yang was just momentarily confused. Father, I interrupted her. The chamberlain is still waiting for a reply. I glanced meaningfully toward the door. In my previous life, the prince's residence delayed for 3 days before agreeing, which had already displeased the royal family. Sure enough, father's expression turned stern. Zhuhua makes a valid point. Go and report to His Majesty that the Prince of Jing's mansion is willing to form a marriage alliance. But, he glanced at me and said, it is the second daughter, Zhuhua. Liu Ruyan suddenly looked up, a flash of resentment in her eyes. I gave her a faint smile and said in a voice only the two of us could hear, If you say it's just sibling affection, and I'm helping you out of a predicament, why are you unhappy instead? Her face instantly turned deathly pale. 3 days later. The royal mansion sent over the betrothal gifts. I sat by the window, watching chest after chest of treasures tied with red silk being carried into the courtyard, when the maid Yunshio hurriedly ran in. Princess, the princess consort has reduced your dowry by 30%. She says it's to be kept for the eldest young lady's future use. I took a slow sip of tea. It doesn't matter. In my past life, I was timid and submissive, letting them withhold my dowry, and after entering the manor, I suffered endless contempt. In this life, go and invite Nanny Li here. Lady Li was the wet nurse of Liu Ruyan and also the trusted confidant of the princess consort. In my previous life, it was she who drugged my food and drink, creating the false appearance that I was having an affair with the barbarians. The old woman entered the room with an arrogant expression. What orders does the princess have? I signaled Yunshio to close the door, then took an account book from the bottom layer of the dressing case. Nanny recognizes this, doesn't she? Her face changed dramatically after just one glance. It was the account book of her son embezzling public funds. In my past life, she stole and sold the prince's treasures to cover the deficit, but framed me for it. By tomorrow, my dowry must be complete. Not a single item missing. I gently closed the account book, otherwise, this ledger will end up on my father's desk. Nanny Li staggered back 2 steps, looking at me as if she had seen a ghost. Of course, she couldn't have imagined how this reclusive princess, who usually kept to herself, could have discovered her most hidden secret. On my wedding day, I wore the phoenix bridal gown and the 9-tailed phoenix crown, making a grand departure. As I passed by Liu Ruyan's chamber, I heard a sharp crash from inside, like the sound of porcelain shattering. When the bridal sedan chair began to move, I lifted a corner of my veil and saw Liu Ruyan standing inside the palace gate, staring at me with a venomous glare in her eyes. I silently said to her, "The show has just begun, my dear sister, princess. It's time to rise." I jolted awake, my eyes meeting the dark cloud-patterned embroidered canopy. My fingertips brushed against the soft brocade quilt beneath me. And it suddenly dawned on me, I had married into the northern garrison prince's mansion. Memories from my past life overlapped with the scenes of this one, leaving me dazed for a moment. Yesterday at the wedding hall, Mo Beichen was dressed in black wedding robes, his brows and eyes sharp as a sword, even more imposing than I remembered. When he took my hand, his palm bore the faint calluses left by years of wielding a sword. Princess consort, Yunshio's voice pulled me back from my memories. What time is it? It's exactly the hour of Mao. The prince has gone to practice swordplay. Yunshio helped me to my feet, whispering softly, the matron sent by the prince's residence, Madame Sun, is waiting outside. She says she's here to familiarize you with the household affairs. A faint smile played at the corners of my lips. This Madame Sun was Liu Ruyan's right-hand woman in my past life, and she had no shortage of help in tormenting me. She loved to find fault during the morning and evening greetings, making me kneel in the freezing snow for 2 full hours. Let her wait. I took a slow sip of tea. Serve breakfast first. Yunshio widened her eyes. This is against the rules. In the prince's mansion, one must abide by the prince's rules. In the northern garrison prince's mansion, naturally, one follows the northern garrison prince's rules. I deliberately raised my voice. His Highness ordered last night that I am of delicate health and need not adhere to such formalities. A barely audible cold snort came from outside the door. I sneered. This nanny son is indeed as impatient as she was in my past life. Breakfast arrived later than expected. When the maid finally entered with the food box, I frowned at a glance. The bird's nest porridge looked murky, and the pastries were arranged haphazardly, far below the standard expected of the prince's mansion. Who prepared this porridge? I gently stirred with the silver hairpin. The little maid trembled with fear. It was Granny Zhong from the kitchen. I stared at the slightly darkened tip of the silver hairpin, my gaze turning cold. Yunshio, go and fetch the prince. I put down the silver hairpin. Tell him I have important matters to discuss. Mo Beichen arrived faster than expected, dressed in black martial attire. A light sweat still glistened on his forehead from practice. His entire presence as sharp and imposing as an unsheathed sword. Your Highness. I curtsied gracefully and pushed the bowl of porridge toward him. As a newcomer, I am unfamiliar with the rules of the prince's residence. The color of this porridge looks suspicious. I wonder if it's a medicinal concoction specially prepared by the kitchen. Or, Mo Beichen's eyes sharpened, he took a silver hairpin to test it, and his expression changed abruptly. Half an hour later, all the kitchen staff were brought to the courtyard under guard. Old woman Zhong knelt at the very front, still making excuses. I'm wronged. This porridge was made in the usual way. Slap her face, I said softly. Smack, a slap landed, and a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of old woman Zhong's mouth. Go on. I didn't raise my hand to signal a stop until her cheeks were swollen and red. Now you can speak. Who ordered you to put medicine in the porridge? The courtyard was dead silent. Mo Beichen sat in the official's armchair, seemingly playing with a jade pendant carelessly, but his gaze was as sharp as an eagle's. I am wronged, old servant. Granny Zhong was still making a last-ditch struggle. I sighed. Your Highness, I've heard that in the military, there is a punishment where the prisoner is pressed into a vat of salt water, honey is sprinkled on their wounds, and ants are lured to feed on them. Mo Beichen raised an eyebrow. The princess is well informed. Old Lady Zhong instantly collapsed. It was Matron's son. She said the new princess was too delicate and needed to be put in her place. Matron's son turned deathly pale. Nonsense. This old servant has always been loyal to the royal household. Search her quarters. I cut her off, in no time. The guards found a packet of powder and 10 taels of gold under Matron's son's bed, at the bottom of the gold ingot. The mark Jing Wang Fu was clearly engraved, a distinctive seal unique to the royal treasury. I looked toward Mo Beichen. Your Highness, according to the law, what punishment should a servant who harms their master receive? Death by beating. His thin lips parted, uttering 2 icy words, as Nanny's son was dragged away screaming. I noticed a flash of emerald green behind the corridor pillar. It was Miss Su Wanru, a distant cousin of Mo Beichen and a close friend of Liu Ruyan in her previous life. What a clever move, princess consort. After returning to the room, Mo Beichen looked at me with a meaningful gaze. It's just a bit too practiced. My heart tightened, but I showed no sign on my face. Although the royal mansion is noble, the hidden schemes in the inner chambers are no less than elsewhere. If I hadn't learned some skills to protect myself, I'm afraid I wouldn't have survived until today. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment before he suddenly said, in 3 days, for the return visit to your family, I will accompany you. Thank you, Your Highness. I bowed sincerely. On the day of the return visit, I deliberately wore the cloud-patterned palace attire bestowed by the emperor. With 9 phoenix hairpins shimmering brilliantly in the sunlight, Mo Beichen rode his horse alongside the sedan chair, drawing the attention of the common people along the way. The prince and his consort are truly a match made in heaven. I heard the second daughter of Jingwang Mansion only married in place of her elder sister who refused the match, yet she ended up blessed by misfortune. The murmurs drifted into the sedan with the wind, and the corners of my lips lifted slightly. These idle words will spread throughout the capital by tomorrow. I wonder what expression Liu Ruyan will have when she hears them, in front of the Prince Jing's mansion. Liu Ruyan indeed came out in full attire to greet us. She was dressed in a crimson palace gown, with even more pearls and jade in her hair than usual, clearly harboring a competitive spirit. Sister has returned. Her smile was stiff, her gaze fixed intently on the golden phoenix hairpin in my hair. That was placed on me by Mo Beichen himself this morning. Mo Beichen dismounted and, in full view of everyone, personally helped me out of the sedan chair. His palm was warm. His movements so gentle he hardly seemed like a military general. I deliberately stumbled, and he immediately wrapped his arm around my waist. Be careful. Liu Ruyan's eyes were practically spitting fire. During the meal, the imperial consort remarked with a sarcastic tone, Is Zhuohua accustomed to life in the prince's mansion? Yanga has been pampered since childhood. If she were to marry into that household, I fear she wouldn't be able to endure all those rules. Mother worries too much. I picked up a piece of shad fish and placed it into Mo Beichen's bowl. Your Highness has treated me so well. Just this morning, you mentioned wanting to request an imperial title for me. Clatter. Liu Ruyan's chopsticks fell onto the table. Mo Beichen ate the food I had given him without changing his expression, even adding, Zhuohua is dignified and virtuous, the ideal choice to be the mistress of the household. I saw Liu Ruyan's nails digging into her palm under the table. When I left the table to freshen up, Liu Ruyan stopped me at the corner of the corridor. Her eyes were full of venom. You wretch, do you think you can turn into a phoenix just by flying up to a high branch? Sister, what are you doing? I feigned surprise. Didn't you say yourself that you only had a sibling-like relationship with the prince? She raised her hand as if to slap me. I grabbed her wrist firmly and whispered close to her ear. Don't worry, sister. I will definitely keep your secret about meeting Mr. Zhao in the back hills of Jing'an Temple. She was as if struck by lightning, staggering back 2 steps. How could you? Of course I knew. In my past life, it was this childhood friend of mine, young Master Zhao, who gave false testimony, claiming I had an affair with the barbarians. In the carriage on the way back to the prince's mansion, Mo Beichen suddenly spoke. Do you have a grudge against your legitimate elder sister? My heart skipped a beat. Why would you say that, Your Highness? You look at her, he said meaningfully, as if she were a dying person. I was at a loss for words when the carriage suddenly came to an abrupt halt. A woman's panicked cry came from outside. Cousin, save me. Mo Beichen lifted the carriage curtain to see Su Wanru sitting slumped in the middle of the road, her skirt stained with mud, looking utterly disheveled. Wanru, what happened? I went to offer incense at the Temple of Mercy, and on my way back, I encountered some ruffians. She wept, her tears falling like raindrops on pear blossoms. Luckily, I saw my cousin's carriage. I watched this chance encounter with a cold eye. In her past life, Su Wanru had feigned weakness like this to win sympathy, eventually becoming Mo Beichen's concubine. In that case, escort the young lady back to the residence. I smiled and said, I happen to have a bit of a headache. Why doesn't Your Highness ride a horse instead? Mo Beichen gave me a deep look and actually got off the carriage. Through the gauze curtain, I saw Su Wanlan glance triumphantly in my direction and reach out to take Mo Beichen's arm. Unexpectedly, Mo Beichen sidestepped to avoid her and said calmly, Men and women should maintain proper distance. Cousin, please ride in the carriage behind. That evening, as I was removing my makeup and combing my hair, Yunxiu hurried in. Your Highness, I found out, before Miss Su left today, she received a letter delivered from the Jing Manor. In the bronze mirror, my smile slowly widened. The real show had only just begun. The flower viewing invitation sent by Su Wanru was edged in gold, with handwriting so elegant it seemed like that of a well-bred young lady. My fingertips lightly brushed over the words on the paper, inviting the eldest daughter of Jing Manor for an excursion, and the corners of my lips unconsciously lifted. My lady. This is clearly a trap. Yunxiu anxiously combed my hair. Miss Su is close with your legitimate sister. Suddenly sending an invitation to admire flowers with her surely harbors ill intentions. The woman in the bronze mirror had features like a painting, with a cinnabar mole at the corner of her eye adding a touch of charm. I took out a gold-inlaid jade hairpin and handed it to Yunxiu. Use this one. Also, bring me that lake blue butterfly-patterned dress. Is the princess consort going to an appointment? Not only am I going, but I'm going in grand style. I gently stroked the pearl tassels dangling from the hairpin. Send someone to the Prince Jing's mansion with a message. This princess consort will definitely attend. This time, I will make them reap what they have sown. On the day of the flower viewing banquet, the rear garden of the mansion was adorned with lanterns and decorations. Su Wanru wore an elegant white dress, with only a magnolia flower pinned in her hair, looking every bit like a pure white lotus rising untainted from the mud. Seeing me arrive with Liu Ruyan, a flicker of surprise passed through her eyes before she greeted us with a beaming smile. Cousin-in-law, you've finally come. She warmly linked arms with me, deliberately using her body to separate me from Mo Beichen. This must be the eldest daughter of the Jing Manor, truly as beautiful as the rumors say. Liu Ruyan was dressed with exceptional care today, her pomegranate red skirt embroidered with golden peonies, moving like a burning flame as she walked. She curtsied to Mo Beichen, her eyes sparkling as she said, Brother Beichen, it's been a while. Mo Beichen nodded faintly, but his gaze fell on me. It's windy today. Why didn't you wear more clothes? This unexpected concern left the young ladies present stunned. I seized the moment to cough lightly twice. I've caught a slight chill, but it's nothing serious. I'll go get your cloak. With that, he turned and left, leaving Su Wanru's face alternating between green and pale. Liu Ruyan leaned close to my ear, her voice hushed but unable to conceal the hatred. Do you really think he cares about you? It's just a show for outsiders. I quietly stepped back half a step. Sister, your lipstick has stained your teeth. Her flustered attempt to cover her mouth in a comical manner greatly lifted my spirits. In my past life, she was just like this, always making provocative remarks whenever Mo Beichen and I had the slightest interaction. Yet, back then, I took her words to heart and became increasingly timid and hesitant. Halfway through the flower viewing banquet, Su Wanru suggested going to the lakeside to admire the lotus blossoms. I watched coldly as she exchanged glances with Liu Ruyan, knowing that the show was about to begin. The pavilion in the center of the lake was surrounded by water, connected only by a winding bridge. As we reached the middle of the bridge, Liu Ruyan suddenly yelped and fell toward me. I was well prepared, sidestepping as the silver needle hidden in my sleeve precisely sliced through her sleeve. Splash! Water splashed everywhere. Liu Ruyan flailed in the lake, her screams drawing everyone's attention. Help! Shuhua pushed me, struggling and crying out, I can't swim. The young ladies panicked, and Su Wanru immediately shouted, Help! Miss Liu has fallen into the water. She turned to me, a malicious glint in her eyes. Cousin-in-law, even if you have a grudge against Miss Liu, you shouldn't resort to such cruelty. I watched coldly as Liu Ruyan was rescued by the maids. Drenched and utterly disheveled, after she was helped ashore, I slowly stepped forward. Did you say I pushed you, sister? It was you. Liu Ruyan shivered, her delicate makeup smeared into a mess. You're jealous of me. You deliberately lured me to the bridge. Then what is this? I suddenly grabbed her wet sleeve and shook it, causing a paper-wrapped packet of powder to fall out with a rustle. The paper packet, soaked through, revealed a pale yellow powder inside. The scene fell into dead silence. No, it's not mine. Liu Ruyan's face turned deathly pale. Arsenic. I picked up the paper packet, my voice soft yet clear enough for all to hear. Sister, carrying this with you, who did you intend to harm? Nonsense. Liu Ruyan screamed and tried to snatch it, but I easily dodged her. Whether it's arsenic or not, a simple examination by a physician will tell. I turned to Mo Beichen, who had hurried over. Your Highness, I request an examination of this packet of powder. My sister said I pushed her into the water, but actually, I paused deliberately. I wanted to stop her from sprinkling this packet into everyone's tea and snacks. This twist was so shocking that everyone present erupted in an uproar. Several young ladies stepped back in horror, as if Liu Ruyan were some kind of monstrous beast. You're slandering me. Liu Ruyan hysterically lunged forward, but was stopped by Mo Beichen with a single glare. Miss Liu, his voice was as cold as ice. The prince's manner does not welcome poisoners. These words struck Liu Ruyan like a thunderbolt. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Brother Beichen, you believe her over me. We grew up together. How could I possibly? See the guest out. Mo Beichen interrupted her, turned and put his arm around my shoulder. The princess has been frightened. This move undoubtedly declared his stance to everyone. Su Wanru's smile froze on her face, while Liu Ruyan seemed as if her soul had been drained, allowing the maids to support her as she left. Before leaving, the glance she cast back at me was so venomous it could have drawn poison. After returning to the room, Mo Beichen personally draped the outer garment over me. You knew all along that they were plotting against you. I had a pretty good idea. I deliberately said it lightly. That's just how my elder sister has always been. He suddenly reached out and lifted my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. Did you guess she had poison hidden in her sleeve because of the silver needle in yours? My heart skipped a beat. So he had seen it. Your Highness is perceptive. I lowered my eyes. I was merely protecting myself. He remained silent for a long time, then suddenly let out a light laugh. Well done. Those 4 simple words made my nose sting with emotion. The next morning, just after I had finished breakfast, Yunxiu rushed in anxiously. Your Highness, someone from the Jing Manor has come to say the princess consort is seriously ill and requests your immediate return. I paused the teacup in my hand. Prepare the sedan chair. I set down the teacup, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. Go invite the prince. The atmosphere at Jingwang Manor was tense. My mother lay on the bed moaning and groaning. The moment she saw me, she began wailing and lamenting. Unfilial daughter, you forgot your mother as soon as you married into a noble family. What ails you, mother? I stood by the bed without kneeling. The prince specially summoned a royal physician to treat you. The imperial consort's expression stiffened, clearly not expecting Mo Beichen to come in person. After examining her pulse for a moment, the elderly physician frowned and said, the princess consort's pulse is stable. She just has some liver fire excess. A light diet will suffice. My mother-in-law's face flushed with embarrassment as she argued defensively. Last night my chest ached terribly, but it's better today. Since mother is well, your daughter can rest assured. I smiled and said, but since I've returned to the residence, I wish to stay overnight to keep mother company and chat. This proposal left both my mother-in-law and Liu Ruyan, who was hiding behind the screen, stunned. Mo Beichen also showed a hint of surprise but quickly understood. In that case, I will come to pick up the princess consort tomorrow. After seeing Mo Beichen off, Liu Ruyan immediately revealed her true nature. Stop pretending to be filial. Don't think you're so great just because you have the prince's support. Elder sister, be cautious with your words. I gently touched the jade hairpin in my hair. This is an imperial gift. If it were to fall and break, it would be a grave disrespect. Liu Ruyan stared at the jade hairpin with envy, suddenly reaching out to snatch it. You are not worthy of wearing an imperial gift. I was prepared and sidestepped, causing her to miss and stumble forward. Seeing this, the imperial consort immediately slapped the bed and shouted angrily, unfilial daughter, Go kneel in the ancestral hall tonight and reflect on your actions, as you command, mother." I obediently complied, though a trace of mockery flashed in my eyes. The ancestral hall was cold and damp. But I had come prepared. The cotton cushions secretly slipped to me by Yunshio made kneeling less uncomfortable, and the pastries hidden in my sleeve could stave off hunger. At midnight, the ancestral hall door was gently pushed open, and a dark figure crept in quietly. "The princess consort sent me to retrieve your jade hairpin," the visitor whispered, saying it was an imperial gift and should not be defiled in the ancestral hall. I sneered inwardly. In my past life, they used the same trick to take my jewelry, only to falsely accuse me of improper care the next day. I pretended to be drowsy and confused, allowing the maid to take the jade hairpin from my hair, waiting for the footsteps to fade away. I took out another identical jade hairpin from my sleeve and tucked it back into my hair. The one that was taken away was a replica I had Yunshio commissioned from skilled artisans in advance, convincing enough to pass for the real thing. The next morning, my mother, the imperial consort, stormed into the ancestral hall with a crowd of servants in tow. "You wretch, how dare you lose an imperial gift?" I feigned ignorance. "Why would you say that, mother?" Still playing dumb, I slowly rose and removed the jade hairpin from my hair. "Is this what you're referring to, mother?" The jade hairpin shimmered brilliantly in the morning light, and the expressions on the consort and Liu Ruyan were utterly priceless. "But this is impossible." Liu Ruyan's voice trembled. "I clearly what?" I took a step closer. "How did you know my hairpin was missing, sister?" Seeing the situation turning sour, the consort hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, we'll wait until the prince arrives to clarify." I traced the patterns on the genuine jade hairpin. "By the way, does mother know what the punishment is for privately concealing an imperial gift?" The consort's face instantly turned pale. Just then, a servant's loud announcement came from outside the door. "The Prince of Junbei has arrived." Watching the panicked expressions of the mother and daughter, I chuckled softly. "Your Highness, the prince requests your presence in the study." Yunshio's voice made me pause my needlework. Since returning from Jingwang Manor that day, Mo Beichen's attitude toward me had subtly changed. He sends someone to inquire about my daily routine every day, and occasionally even dines with me in the evening. This was something that had never happened before. "Understood." I set down the embroidery hoop and adjusted the hair at my temples in the mirror. "Bring me the new lotus root-colored baize I made." The study door was half open. I knocked gently. "Come in." Mo Beichen stood by the window, his silhouette sharp as a blade against the backlight. Several memorials lay unfolded on the desk, the ink still fresh. Seeing me enter, he pointed to the chair opposite. "Sit. Does your Highness need something from me?" I sat down cautiously, my gaze inadvertently sweeping over the memorials. They were military reports from the border. The military governor of Longxi reported unusual movements from the Turks. He pushed a cup of tea toward me. "Your father proposed a marriage alliance at court. What do you think?" My heart trembled. In my previous life, this happened 3 months later. At that time, Liu Ruyan urged Mo Beichen to advocate for war, which led him to lead troops into an ambush and nearly cost him his life. Now he's actually asking for my opinion. In my humble opinion, a marriage alliance is merely a stopgap measure. I weighed my words carefully. The Turks harbor wolfish ambitions. Only through battle can they be subdued. Closing the book. "Come." He lifted the red silk, and the bronze mirror immediately reflected the images of both of us. Strangely, the Mo Beichen in the mirror appeared much older, with fine wrinkles at the corners of his eyes, while the reflection showed me with a pale, bluish complexion and cracked lips, clearly a corpse. "This is our past life." His voice was low. "To be precise, it was your past life. He paused. "Nightmare." It turns out that before I was reborn, Mo Beichen had been having nightmares about my death for 3 whole years. In his dreams, he always saw me meet a tragic end in the western regions but was unable to save me. Because of this, he began to secretly investigate the Jing prince's residence and even collected clues about the Xuanji diagram in an attempt to find a way to bring me back to life. "The night you pushed Liu Ruyan aside and said you would take her place in the marriage, I knew it had succeeded." He gently stroked my face, his eyes filled with complex emotions. "I just didn't expect you to return with all your memories intact." My throat tightened. "Why help me? In our past life, we were clearly strangers." He smiled bitterly. "Because I was foolish, blinded by Liu Rumeng, and only discovered the truth after you died." He pulled up his sleeve, revealing that peculiar scar. "This is the mark of a soul-summoning ritual. I used my own blood as a medium, trying to call back your spirit. My eyes grew warm. In my past life, I thought he had no feelings for me, never knowing he had gone to such lengths for me. Now, he took out a scroll. It's time to deal with the last trouble. The scroll unfurled, revealing a portrait of a beautiful woman. The lady in the painting had features as exquisite as a painting, with a cinnabar mole between her brows identical to mine. This is Lady Xuanji, a woman who mastered the esoteric arts of Chimanduanjia 300 years ago. Mo Beichen pointed to the inscription on the painting. She created the Xuanji diagram, said to be capable of reversing time and space. And you, he looked at me deeply, are her descendant. I suddenly recalled the portrait in my birth mother's room. That grandmother also had a cinnabar mole between her brows. Could it be? The mother and daughter of Jing Manor have always wanted to obtain the Xuanji diagram, not only to deal with you but also to covet the immortality technique recorded within. Mo Beichen sneered. Unfortunately, they don't know that the diagram recognizes its master. Only those with Xuanji bloodline can activate it. I suddenly remembered something. Then where is the diagram now? Right here. He walked to the bookshelf, took out a copy of Admonitions for Women, and pulled out a piece of silk as thin as a cicada's wing from it. I've been keeping it safe for you. The silk was densely covered with strange symbols, with a complex array diagram in the center. Exactly like the one I had seen in my dream. When my blood dripped onto it, the symbols wriggled like living creatures, emitting a faint golden light. Mo Beichen's eyes blazed. So it really is you. First, the Princess of Zhunbei is pregnant, and the Emperor personally bestowed a jade ruyi as a congratulatory gift. Second, Prince Jing was dismissed and investigated for corruption, and his wife committed suicide in prison. As for Liu Ruyan, the official statement is that she encountered bandits on her way to the family temple, and her body was never found. Only I know that Liu Ruyan is imprisoned in the most secret dungeon of the royal mansion. Day after day, she faces the bronze mirror, watching her own face gradually rot, that mirror which reflects both past and present lives. Your Highness, it's time for your prenatal medicine. Mo Beichen personally brought in the medicine bowl, sunlight spreading out behind him. I set down the account book in my hand. It detailed our newly established trade network. All enemies from my past life were now ensnared within it, their lives and deaths entirely in my grasp. Bitter. I took a sip and frowned. He chuckled softly, leaning down to kiss my lips. How about this? The bitterness of the medicinal brew dissolved between his lips and tongue, unexpectedly leaving a hint of sweetness. Outside the window, the spring scenery was just right, and this lifetime had only just begun. The end.